Hello and welcome to Soups and Sabers. My name is Jordan. With me today is no one. Solo show today as we dive into the trailer that was just released for Mandalorian and Grogu earlier this week, as well as a poster, and as well as the first few looks we've got at Star Wars Starfighter. So that is what we'll be talking about today. Probably a pretty compact episode here. I'm not expecting it to be super long since I'm solo. But yeah. So look, I've watched the trailer once for the YouTubers and everything. We're gonna watch it again here. It's been a couple days since it released. I've only watched it the once. We're gonna go through it, and then I'll kind of share my thoughts on it after that, and then we'll take a look at the poster. And then we'll just kind of look at those Starfighter first looks, and then that'll be that. So if you're listening to us on the audio side and you want to see, the video side of the podcast, you can go over to youtube.com/@SupesandSabers and find it all there. Or just, click in the links of your podcast description where the link tree is, and it says there how to get to the YouTube. But yeah, so I guess let's not delay too much here, and we're gonna go ahead and dive into the trailer. Why does it do this to me? We'll turn it down a little bit more. All right, so we got the Razor Crest back, this time with yellow stripes. We got the Anzellans and back hanging out with the baby. Sigourney Weaver. There's Zeb.
Impressive.
Good shot, baby.
Okay. Okay. So that is the trailer. I had to kind of refresh myself with it a bit because it, like I said, had been a few days since it released, and was hoping to record something last night. That kind of fell through with just being really busy as well. But yeah. So look, this is. I don't want to really harp on, I think, what the naysayers are saying. And if you're one of those, I guess you can leave us a comment or, send us a message via email or Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever, on why you feel that way. But I do think, I've seen some people say like 20, like, they should have the people that cut the Force Awakens trailer and stuff. But I would say I think if the Force Awakens trailer released today, people would be very negative on it as well. It really seems like sometime after 2015, maybe the next year for certain reasons, the world got a lot more cynical. And with that cynical stuff, and also I think some of it is just, we're obviously on social media, so we're seeing everybody's opinion when back in the day that wouldn't really be the case, right? Back in the day you would get reviews that might get mentioned on like the news or something, but it wasn't everybody opinion out there for you to read or listen to, in my opinion, right? There would be no podcasts back then. But I guess my first thought when watching this trailer, and I was very curious to see the reaction for some others online, because I thought this looked great. Like, I thought this looked like an elevated version of the show. It did, to me, it didn't look like the show on a big screen. To me, like seeing events like the AT-AT in the snow about to fall off the cliff, like that's something they couldn't do on the show. So I feel like my first post was kind of, hey, if you are worried about this being just the same scale or not as big of a scale as the other movies, this trailer shows that that's not true. But then I started seeing people complain about the scope and size of it, or even just like the lame stuff like, oh, the color grading, it's too flat, it's too gray, all that kind of stuff. To me, this looks exactly like, and another show brought this up too, that I think is true, and I think it's something that back in the day, our TV shows, and I sound old saying that, but our TV shows did not have the budgets that TV shows nowadays have, right? Um, you would be able to tell from the sets, the sound, they're filmed on a sound stage with like painted backdrops of a neighborhood or something, the obvious fake driving, all that kind of stuff. That nowadays our shows comes with a cost, has way less episodes, but way bigger budget. I think the numbers for the Acolyte stuff just came out. It was like 250 was confirmed or something, which is that's a feature film budget, right? That's like, I think it was like close to 30 some million an episode. Then that's a lot. Not a lot of shows get that. So what my point is that we are like the Mandalorian. Were like, oh, that all looks, when that first dropped, that looks great for a TV show, Star Wars. Like, I remember George Lucas wanted to create a TV show. I think he was talking about Underworld back in the day, that I was like, oh my God, a live action Star Wars show. This will be great. And, he eventually nixed it. But I remember him saying like, oh, it'd be sometime in like 2009, and I was like, oh, that's like when I graduate. Mom, isn't that crazy that when I graduate, there could be a live action Star Wars show? That fell through due to cost. So you come with the volume, and it helps, keep things like Mandalorian's cost down compared to some of the shows that shoot on location, like The Acolyte. And with that, not only did it look great for a TV show, I think it looked pretty good. Like, it didn't look way less quality. We've kind of talked about, like, if there was a Star Wars show back in the day, like a Star Trek show, most of the Star Trek shows take place in those same corridors on the same ships with the same, star deck where they're talking, and then occasionally they're going to go out to other planets, and you'll have makeup for some of the aliens and stuff. But that's how I always thought a Star Wars live action show would go. Like, you would get like maybe 20 episodes of this crew on a ship, and it would be kind of low budget in the sense that most of the plot takes place on the ship, and then you can spend money on the effects, the makeup, and the occasional planet they go on. And it would look a little less quality, less cinematic, I guess you would say. But now all of our TV shows are shot cinematically. I would kind of go back to maybe like, I don't know when the tide really turned, because HBO has always had those type of budgets. But if you're looking at a show like Breaking Bad, where it is shot rather cinematically compared to what a TV show would look like back in like the 90s, early 2000s. I really feel like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul really changed that for like cable shows. I'm sure there's other ones I'm missing that are shot cinematically that I didn't watch at the time, but now all shows are kind of shot that way cinematically. They have like different color grading, all this kind of stuff, and compared to, you know, like a USA Network drama like Suits or White Collar or Psych, which wasn't as shot as cinematically as something like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. So I do think sometimes we are just like, I saw people say, well, this doesn't look any different than the show. And I really don't think it should look any different from the show style wise. I do think some of the camera stuff was there, like him kicking that guy into the bar was, I thought, really dynamic camera movement that, I don't know, I don't feel like we see that a lot in the show. So I thought that was really cool. But maybe that's why the line is blurring a bit between what we think TV and movies should look like, is because we're seeing both ends on, in theaters and at home, that it's kind of blurring it. Anyway, enough about that. Trailer wise, I really liked it. I like the new kind of like bringing the theme song, which apparently Ludwig is back to do the music for this movie. That's great. But kind of a different remix of the theme song, as it is kind of like getting intro where you're like, oh yeah, we're about to hear the main part of the theme, and then the way it kind of slows down, more epic as the AT-AT is falling, like that kind of stuff really, really worked for me in this. No, we don't have a lot of plot to go off of or anything like that, but it's great to just see Sigourney Weaver in here. I thought when she was first cast, she was going to be a villain. She is going to be a hero, it looks like. It was great to see Zeb have a action scene. That was pretty cool. Because the other time we had seen him was from his appearance taking on the live action appearance. Last time we seen him was just sitting at a bar in a cantina. So great to see him like almost like bouncing off the wall and like fighting. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Let's talk a bit about the poster. Oops. Here we go. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the poster. This is the, Zeb is sitting here at the bar. That's what this poster, by the way, maybe a little controversial. I don't know. I've seen some people not like it. I really like this poster. It looks very old school adventure movie style, Indiana Jones style, especially with those oranges. But that Zeb, and it has the painted look like a Struzen type poster. That Zeb here in the poster is like from his scene in Mandalorian season 3. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're actually seeing him do some action. We got like the Hutt twins here again from Book of Boba Fett, which is interesting for the poster. I'm assuming maybe they'll be in the scene with Rota the Hutt, or maybe that's who Mando is supposed to be looking for at one point, and they're wanting to find their nephew. That would be their nephew, I think, right? Cousin, I don't know, because I think they were cousins to Jabba, so probably like second cousins to Rota. So maybe that's who he's looking for, and that brings him to that arena where we see Rota, voiced by Jeremy Allen White. So that's interesting. We get Sigourney on the poster. We get Dan Zellens and Grogu on the poster a couple times. We have Mando on the poster a couple times. We have him riding like one of the chicken walkers. We have him about to fight this creature that we see in the trailer, I think. And of course, we have the Razor Crest in the top left here, which I think is great. I know there's some controversy here as well of, well, they're overwriting everything that has led him to his journey, blah, 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 blah. But I don't know about you, but I find this very realistic. Okay, let's take you back. 2014, I get in a car accident. My Chevy Sonic lady just runs a red light while my light's green, so I, T-boned her, and car was totaled, absolutely totaled. And I'd only had that car for 2 years at that point, and it was something that was very near and dear to my heart. And I was actually um, about to go back down to Florida for another 5-month stint for an internship, a college program at Disney. So I needed a car. And what did I do? I went right back to the dealerships that I went and bought the car for the last time and bought an upgraded Chevy Sonic, same color. And I still have that one to this day, 10 years later, 11 years later. And my point being, there might be a reason he gets this back. There might be a reason he wants it back. I think it's fine for characters not to think like, oh, I'm on my character progression and now I've lost the Razor Crest and now I have the Naboo Starfighter. Everything's good. I heard some good points from I guess I scrolled somewhere. People were talking about this, and Naboo Starfighter doesn't really make sense for a bounty hunter anyway when it's just him and Grogu that can fit in it. If he's claiming bounties, if he's doing some sort of work, there's a reason he had the Razor Crest to begin with, right? And he had that whole mechanism in there for him to freeze and carbonite people. So I think it makes sense to have a new Razor Crest. And it is distinctive with the yellow accents on it, which I don't think the other one had, or not as clear as this. I have a little figure of the Razor Crest, but I think I packed it last year when I was cleaning up some stuff. Either way, it makes sense. Also, maybe he just really likes that ship and wants another one. I see people be like, how are they going to mention that? Well, I mean, it could be as easy as if he's hired by Sigourney Weaver or Zeb, and they're like, well, if you're going to work for the New Republic, like, what's your price? And he says, I need a ship. I can't go get like Rota the Hutt or whoever they're going after and bring them back in my new Starfighter. I want another Razor Crest. And the New Republic says, there you go. We'll bring one over to you. Here's your new Razor Crest. Could be as simple as that. I don't have a problem. Same thing with like, I think the pulsator rifle or something, got destroyed when the ship did. And it's like he has that back again. Yeah, it's a tool. Same thing if I lost my cell phone, I'm going to go get another cell phone or something. If this mic that I'm using right now broke, I'd go get a new mic. If he's going to be more on, because before he didn't need it, he had the Darksaber for a while, right? Now that he is kind of settled with Grogu, living it out, and then gets recruited for this job, even he could have accumulated some of this stuff in the meantime since season 3. I know that would probably upset some people too, but to me, I don't care. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. New Razor Crest, new gun. To me, it makes sense that he gets those things. So I'm not that worried about it. One thing I really like about this poster too is it starring Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin and Grogu as himself, just really cool how they have that up there. But even the font that says like only in theaters, again, just very 40s serial type thing. If you're searching for new adventures, this is the way. Just very old school, like what is that? Like a serial reel when they're doing like, and next time on the, almost like a radio drama, or the guy who's like, next time on this show, next time on this, come back and you'll see the rest of this adventure. That's what this poster feels like. And I think they never do this, by the way. They never take like the best poster and make it a Blu-ray cover. But this is like a Blu-ray cover if I've ever seen one. Like you just remove the only in theaters bit. And this is a Blu-ray cover. That's what I want. Steelbook, I don't care. Regular Blu-ray, 4K Blu-ray, whatever it is, I would love to see it up there. So there you go. But yeah, not a lot to go off plot. I'm assuming he gets roped into something to help the Republic, the New Republic. That's what Sigourney Weaver's doing, and he assembles the crew of maybe him, Zeb helping out, Grogu. Maybe they're going to see Rota. They need to either get information from him or he's one of the contacts they're looking for, and then they're able to get another piece that then sends them to another thing. Kind of like how the show does, right? The show would be like, we need to go to this planet, get this thing, then they take that to somebody, and then they do the next adventure for another lead and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be pretty standalone. I think it'll be pretty fun. I'm hoping it does well. This is probably the movie that has the best chance to do well, except for like an episode 10. And in my mind, if this and Starfighter don't do well, or if this next batch of movies, Starfighter, Mando, the Dawn of the Jedi movie, if those don't do well, and the Rey movie hasn't progressed, I think they'll smash glass in emergency and call the next one episode 10. Right? Especially by then, we'll probably have somebody else over top of Lucasfilm instead of Kathleen Kennedy, who it seemed like that was really her thing of like, we're wrapping up the Skywalker saga. I could see somebody else coming in and be like, screw that, episode 10, here it is. And it's just called the Star Wars saga again. Or they say, you know what? Yeah, it is still a Skywalker saga. We're still following Rey. Here's episode 10. Whatever. But if these next batch of movies don't do well, it might be another break in theaters and then come back with an episode 10. Here's the thing. Star Wars movies never going to end. It's been 6.5 years since we last got one. Great. Or by the time this comes out, it'll be 6.5 years. I think that was the right time to really take away from it. We still got some adventures on TV. Now it's like, all right, let's get us back to theaters as those TV adventures are slowing down. As the TV adventures are slowing down. And then, boom, here we go into the next batch of movies. But if these don't stick the landing, you know, we'll have a new CEO of Disney at some point. We'll have a new CEO of Lucasfilm. That'll be when they say, you know what, how do we bring back this brand? We do episode 10. It's been a big gap since the last trilogy. We're going to do it. And if they do something like that, I just hope they have it all written before they do it. That was my biggest problem with the other ones. Okay. So, Starfighter. We had Starfighter get a little bit of a nice picture reveal. I guess this is, yeah, that, I guess that's as large as it's going to get on here. I'll just kind of zoom in a bit like this for a bit. There we go. Let's do it like that. Okay, so this was like a black and white picture if you're listening to the audio version of a speeder, it looks like, with Ryan Gosling, the kid that's going to play like his nephew or whatever. Just not a scene from the movie. Looks like it's behind the scenes. Maybe it's this thing they're about to shoot, but both just kind of sitting, chilling, looking at the camera with straight faces as they're like, hey, this movie has started filming. So we just talked about it. What can Disney expect? What can Lucasfilm expect of this stuff? Mando and Grogu, I think, is the one that they are saying is the safest bet. Right? Grogu is a money-making machine. It was a hit TV show. It's going to be a standalone adventure. Let's get some casuals back. It's Baby Yoda. Let's go. This one is a little bit different. They're betting on Sean Levy, who, for some reason, the internet really hates. But he did Deadpool and Wolverine, which made a lot of money. He's done Date Night, one of my favorite comedies back in the day. He really got on the map even more with Stranger Things and how he was directing on that. So really excited to see how that goes. Because here's the other image. Then they revealed this one as well, which is a picture of them filming. It looks like, I think it was in Europe on like the water in the Mediterranean, where it looks like maybe they're having like speeders that are like, or swoop bikes or something that they're going to be riding on. Looks like bike handles, and that's what they're filming out here on the water. We don't know much plot about this one either, but it is Ryan Gosling. Man, they had some big casting news recently too, so let's read those off. We know who's in this movie. It's actually a pretty big cast. Pretty big cast. Like big names that we did not expect, I guess we would say here. We've got Matt Smith, Mia Goth, Aaron Pierre. That's right. Our Jon Stewart in the DCU is going to be in this movie. Simon Bird, British actor from things like Friday Night Dinner and The Inbetweeners. Big fan of those shows. Jamel Westman, Daniel Ings, and Amy Adams. Now, this kid is Flynn Gray, who's going to be on there. And this is not something they're just rushing out either. You know, Sean Levy was, I think, first entered talks, it says, back in November of 2022. It was delayed due to the writer strikes. The writer wrote the film back in July, or that's when it was announced that he was writing the movie. The title and the casting of Gosling was announced at Celebration back in April, which we discussed. And then, of course, the full cast was announced in August when filming began in the UK. This, it looks like they said on Wikipedia, is from Sardinia, Italy. And, of course, it's set to release May 28th, 2027, around that 50th anniversary of Star Wars. Also in April of 2027, we're going to get A New Hope re-released in theaters, which is the last Star Wars movie I need to see in theaters to have seen them all. So really excited for that. You know, we don't know anything about this movie. I think it's just exciting that we're getting some of these big names. I know for some people that is a, like, we don't want big names in Star Wars, or recognizable faces and stuff. But to me, that's never an issue, especially like Samuel Jackson shows up and it's whatever. It's whatever. But I am just really excited that we're seeing progress on these movies. We now have Mandalorian and Grogu has wrapped. We have a trailer. It's getting ready to come out next year. We have this movie filming, Starfighter. We have Ahsoka Season 2 filming right now as well, which is supposed to come out next year. We have Maul Shadow Lord, the animated series, dropping next year at some point. We just had the Lego thing, Season 2 of that, which I Rebuild the Galaxy. I've not watched that yet. I've watched Season 1, which was a fun time. But there's just so much good stuff in the works here. I'm just glad they're filming, getting cameras. You know, this is the kind of stuff we've talked about in the past with Ron and with, you know, other people on the podcast when we say, all right, but put your money where the mouth is. Is this actually happening? Is this, you know, actually going to, I'll believe it when I see it type of thing. And we're starting to see it. So I'm really excited for that. But that's about it for this. Just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on the updates and kind of just the state of the fandom, I guess, right now, and the state of online where everybody is negative about every little thing. Like, I was really excited to talk about this trailer, well, you know, on like Reddit, on Twitter and stuff, but then all I could see was just endless complaining about stuff that didn't even have to do with this. Some of it was just like, oh, Disney made Last Jedi. And it's like, yeah, that's 8 years ago. Move on. It's time to move on, in my opinion. I like that movie too, so I mean, for me, it's whatever. But anyway, that wraps us up here. What's to come on Supes and Sabers the rest of this week? Well, if you are a fan of more than just Star Wars, and you're listening us to on the Pod Awakens podcast feed, that's our home for all of our Star Wars podcasts here on Supes and Sabers, then what we also have coming for you on the main podcast feed, Soups and Sabers, if you want to check that out, if you're more than just a Star Wars fan. We have Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 6 discussion coming later this weekend. Of course, I'm recording this right now a couple hours before that episode premieres. It's supposed to be a pretty big deal. So we'll be talking about that over there. So that, we're doing Season 2 of Peacemaker right now. Once that's done, we have a great draft that's going to be releasing with some great guests. That is our Marvel comic book covers draft. So, picking 5 comic covers that we really like, each of us in a draft style, snake style draft. And that's going to be fun. That's going to be sometime after Peacemaker's done in October. We also have in October dropping a different podcast. I think I'm going to put the first episode on the main feed as well, but it's a venture I've been creating called Enter Flash Time. It is a Flash rewatch podcast from the 2014 Flash show, but it goes through every episode that Barry Allen appears in the whole Arrowverse. So not just Flash seasons 1 through 9. We actually started off with Arrow because that was Barry's first appearance. And then we're going through episode by episode there, so you can check that out. Enter Flash Time. And we might have some Marvel Zombies talk sometime coming up here. But other than that, that's the main stuff for now. Of course, it's been a great time just podcasting this year. And in July, we had Fantastic Four. We had Superman. We had a lot of great stuff building up to that in the summer. Earlier this year, we had Daredevil. It's been a great time under Soups and Sabers. So if you like more than just Star Wars, and if you want to hear our thoughts on that, you can also go over to the main podcast feed and find us there. That's Soups and Sabers on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all for watching and listening along with us here on this Star Wars news update. My name is Jordan, and we'll catch you next time.